Hello and welcome to JoltNet Live, where the production values are as high as a Mormon on Sunday. Think about it. Now, basically, this video is about how I went from being here. So how I went from being, oops, that's the wrong color. Let's have a nice white. There we go. That's fantastic. How I went from being a teacher to a Python programmer. They go to a Python dev in 3 years. And so a few years ago, so 2018, I had never even touched code before. I had precisely zero experience of coding whatsoever. Absolutely zero, nothing whatsoever. And now I'm a Python developer. And basically what that means is that my job involves writing a lot of Python code. And I'm not going to pretend it's not just kind of, pure Python. There is JavaScript as well, and CSS and front-endy stuff. And a lot of the stuff I do involves AWS as well. There's also a lot of something called InfluxDB too. And actually the job that I applied for as a Python developer, it was described as full stack Python developer, because like I say, there is a lot of Python in there, but then there's also the front-endy sort of stuff as well. And then AWS, InfluxDB and other platforms I work with as well. So how did that happen? How did that come to pass? How did it come to be the case that I went from being a teacher, a full-time teacher, to a Python developer in 3 years? Well, basically, the story kind of goes like this. I was working at a school as a full-time teacher, so full-time mainstream secondary school. At that school, I taught English to begin with as an unqualified teacher. And after teaching English as an unqualified teacher, I decided that I wanted to train as a teacher. Unfortunately, though, they wouldn't let me on the basis that my degree is, in fact, BSc Hons psychology. There we go, psychology. So what I did was I then went and did a PGCE in physics with mathematics, go figure. They would let me onto that. So they wouldn't let me onto an English teacher's course, but they would let me onto a physics with mathematics course. And then I went back and I taught at the same school, so part-time English and part-time physics. So it was essentially a full-time timetable, but made up of both English and physics. Now, whilst I was doing this, I was also, this is all relevant, I was also doing a lot of stuff with Nerf as well as a hobby, but also running parties every now and again. And I also had a YouTube channel too, which was called Just a Jolt, which still exists, and you can go and have a look at that. It's a lot of fun. Anyhow, whilst I was doing a party for someone, one of the parents was the teacher of another school, and they suggested that maybe I might want to try teaching ICT, because clearly my experience teaching English, my experience teaching physics lent itself to ICT. How does that work out? Well, it works out like this. Because of the YouTubing stuff I'd done, she thought I might be able to engage some of the kids in her school in essentially doing ICT through YouTubing, so through the social media YouTubing kind of angle. And these are kids who had really, really tough lives, and essentially regular teaching wasn't working out for them. So I went to that school and I did that, and that was my first anything to do with ICT. Now, the most programming I did with that was something called Scratch. That was the most kind of technical and programmatic that role was. Doing Scratch, and also a whole bunch of sort of, this is how you use video editing, this is how you construct like a description, and you got to use English for that, and you got to use maths to do your analytics and things. So anyway, there was that was that ICT. Following that, I took on another role, and that was as a teacher of A-level STEM subjects. When you say STEM subjects, you think kind of yourself, oh yeah, you think kind of like mathematics, you think physics, but also involved in that was computer science as well. So A-level computer science. And in order to do that, do you know what? I had to learn Python. So I did. I learned how to code in order to do that job there. And, students did really, really well. We had grade A's happening, which was great. And so, that was nice. We were getting good results. But I guess the big win for me from that was actually learning Python, which I loved. And not just Python, but like a little bit of HTML and other kind of computer sciencey related things too. Anyway, then I took that and I used that to build something that I called an exam question generator. So basically we were burning through an awful lot of exam papers when I was teaching the physics elements of this. And so I built something to basically generate exam questions. And in order to do that, I had to learn a little something called Django. And I've realized that's behind me, so I'm going to write that over here. In order to do that, I had to learn a little something called Django, which is a Python web development framework, which meant that I could basically use Python to build the logic and then put that onto a website using the Django web framework. And that worked out really, really well for me too. So, of course, I learned Django. Then disaster struck and lockdown happened. Basically, when lockdown happened, I wasn't able to do my regular job. The reason being that it was with students who were hard of hearing, and learning online didn't work out all that well for them. So that meant that I had to find something else to do for a little while. I was still getting paid. I was still doing the best I could, but I had a little bit more time to spend doing something. So I decided, you know what? I'm absolutely loving Python. I'm loving building things. I'm loving learning things. So what I think I'm going to do, instead of just sitting twiddling my thumbs, I'm actually going to go and I'm going to teach all and sundry that I can, Python and tech and all this other cool stuff that I've been learning. So that's what I went and did. I went on a bunch of forums and I just said, hey, look, schools are out. Is there any way that I can, teach anyone any Python? Hey, who's interested in this? And in fact, there were some people interested in that. So as well as building things myself, using the Python that I'd learned, I also had the opportunity to teach it quite a lot too. And so I was teaching family, I was teaching friends. I was, like I said, I posted up on a couple of forums, and I actually posted on a Reddit forum as well, slave labor Reddit forum. So basically anybody, I was trying to teach them, anybody, because I can write stuff. It's actually quite hard using one of these pen things on a tablet, but anyway. So I was teaching family, friends, and anybody else I could Python. And also I was offering to teach their children Python as well. And as it happened, one of the people that I met through doing this, actually, he's kind of, I guess you'd call him a product owner, which is someone who essentially builds things and organizes teams to build things for other people. And he suggested to me, hey, so look, I can see that you built some things. I can see that you can build stuff and that you're a programmer. Do you want to build some stuff for me? And that was when I got involved in a project with him. And this project, along with like a load of the other projects that I've been doing, and by this time, I'd probably built about 5 to 6 Django projects for various different people and written some scripts that also been paid money to build as well. I decided, you know what? This was probably by the beginning of 2021. I decided that by then I had enough experience to maybe start applying for jobs. And I decided that by the end of 2021, and so by December 2021, I wanted to start applying for jobs. So I decided that I would spend a couple more months just studying and working as absolute hard as I could and learning everything I could, and then applying for jobs. And so I did that. I applied for a job just kind of off the cuff, and that was the job that I talked about right at the beginning. That was the kind of the full-time full stack Python developer role, and I got offered that. And in terms of a first-time job, I'm getting paid more than I was expecting to get paid, and I'm also having a great time doing it as well and learning a whole bunch of other technologies too. And so that's a very, very brief kind of whistle-stop tour of how I got from being a teacher, how I came to being a Python developer now. So how does this apply to everyone else? Well, I guess, in my opinion, the things that were the most valuable in terms of becoming a Python developer, in terms of actually learning Python, because I was learning self-taught. I wasn't learning through like a university or anything. I was having to sort of learn all this stuff myself, motivate myself. I would say the biggest takeaways I have in terms of that are, number one, build things. So as I was learning things, I was looking for ways to apply it and build stuff. So building stuff to apply what I was learning, that was the biggest thing. In terms of resources, I was literally just using online tutorials on YouTube. That says YouTube, trust me. Online tutorials on YouTube. Also, automate the boring stuff with Python. was absolutely phenomenal. So Automate the Boring Stuff with Python was great. Any other books, any other resources, but mainly I would say that as I was building the projects, I would find things that I didn't know how to do. And so then I would go to these tutorials and these books and I would learn how to do it. So yeah, so building things is great, online tutorials, also teaching and sharing things with others. I guess I had a bit of an advantage in terms of being a teacher. So explaining things and talking about things comes very, very naturally to me. And so that I found that teaching was absolutely phenomenal in terms of helping me to make sure that I understood what I thought I'd learned, but also when you articulate something to someone else, that really, really helps. And then finally, I would say just push yourself, get out there and do things that you didn't know you could do before, because that's when the learning happens. So the things that really, really helped me a lot were going out and building things, using online tutorials, especially Automate the Boring Stuff with Python, towards the early stages. But then also teaching and sharing what you're doing with other people really, really helped me too. And then finally, keep on pushing yourself to try and do new things. And I would say the last thing that really, really helped me in terms of actually getting a job was getting over the sort of imposter syndrome. Because like I was sort of looking at myself thinking, do you know what? I'm just I've just kind of learned this is just a bit of a hobby. But ultimately, when I got out there to interviews, even the interviews where they told me, do you know what? You really don't have enough experience to do the roles we want you to do. I still learned some things to do. And so I came away from the interviews knowing, right, so I need to get to know this technology, this technology, this technology. Then I've got more chance next time. And then I would say the things that really helped me in terms of the interviews was having some projects to talk about, which I did because I was building lots of stuff. It was also, in terms of Python, as soon as I got to grips with REST APIs, the interviews started coming thick and fast. So that was a big turning point in terms of that. People really liked the fact that I could do Django. They liked the fact that I could demonstrate things that I was doing on the fly as well, which was fantastic. So they were some of the things that really, really helped me with interview. But like I say, I think the things that really helped me the most were building lots of things, the online tutorials, and then the sharing what I was doing with other people. They were the things that really, really helped me. Obviously, this is just a quick and dirty video. I don't plan on doing any kind of really heavily edited videos, on this channel. But that's how I got to where I got to, and maybe I'll share some of those projects at some point in the future. If anyone sees this and is interested, please comment below. I'm more than happy to just answer any programming questions you had just with a quick video. So let me know if that's the case. Thanks very much for watching. This is JoltNet signing off.